What's up, everybody? John Arapoli here with My MMA News, and today's guest is fighting Mona Fatoni at UAE Warriors on March 25th. That show, of course, UAE Warriors 27. Jada Ketley's joining me here today. Jada, thanks for being here. Really appreciate the time. I know we've been kind of going back and forth for a few days. You've been traveling, time changes here, so I really appreciate the fact that you're making time for this interview. Thanks so much for doing it.
No, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, so we just had a nice conversation for, let's see, how long was it there? About 40 minutes, it seems, almost off air here. So it's, glad to finally be talking some fight-related stuff here. And let's start with this upcoming fight here. So obviously, you didn't have super long to prepare, it didn't seem like. So I was following George Hickman's Instagram, actually, and he had a post up saying that you were a few weeks out. I believe he shared, it might even been your post. It was only like 4 weeks till fight night. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. And I start Googling your name, trying to find when your fight is, and he told me you'd be announcing. So not a lot of time to prepare for this. So how long did you exactly have to prepare, and what was your camp like with that short amount of time?
It actually wasn't like too short. I mean, I just come out of a fight already. I fought January 16th on the Fairtex promotion in Lumpini, Bangkok. But I knew about 5 weeks out, but I was waiting for my contract, and then on the contract it said that specifically I wasn't allowed to announce the fight without permission, and then I had been given permission, but I was sort of waiting on a post to be sent to me in order to announce it, and then when that hadn't come yet, I thought, okay, I'm only going to have about a week to sort of sort out sponsors and stuff like that before I fly. So I've got to just kind of get it out there now. So it was a short notice announcement, but I knew about 5 weeks out that I was probably going to be having the fight, and I was already preparing just in case while we were waiting for it to be confirmed.
And I was going to say, too, it seems like George and everybody there at Bong Tao really has you guys, ready to go all year round, it seems like. Every time he posts any videos or the gym posts any photos of that, it seems like you guys are constantly in the gym, working hard, drilling, getting better. So is that an accurate statement that you guys are kind of almost ready to go at any time, given the amount of work that you guys are doing?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we all try to stay in tip-top fight shape. I mean, obviously, there's things where, we might eat a little bit differently out of camp to in camp, but most of us, I mean, just an example is Topnoy, and I was kind of complaining about it to him the other day. That guy never gets tired, and he's just got a gas tank that goes and goes and goes. So he's kind of like he could take a fight on 2 days' notice, basically. So we're always just kind of trying to stay prepared, because with all the uncertainty that was happening with COVID, you never know when a fight may or may not come. So it was kind of just, we're all trying to stay ready, because you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself.
And I wanted to ask you about George a little bit, too. You just had a great post up on your Instagram story, giving all the credit to him there and how great of a coach he's been. Just what's it been like getting to learn from him, kind of pick his brain and have him as your coach? And go ahead, actually, before you even talk about that, too, go ahead and explain the backstory, too, because you weren't supposed to have him as a coach, right? It was Casey O'Neill actually set you guys up.
Yeah, she really wanted to train with me for a while. We became, after our fight, we became really good friends. We ended up meeting up in Thailand. We became roommates. She is one of my best friends, and she was nagging me for ages to meet him. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to go over to Tiger Muay Thai because I really felt it was commercial. I was pretty much against the idea, but she was relentless in this mission to pursue me, to convince me to go there. So one day I decided to go just to actually get her off my case. And I went in, and there was about 100 people on that mat. And to me, that was clarifying what I thought. I said, yep, it's commercial. It's too busy, too many people. I don't want a bar of it. But then, George and Frank actually, took control of the floor, and the way they ran everything with so many bodies on the mat and how they had everything organized. I watched and I thought, oh wow, this guy actually seems like he really seems organized. And because I came from Coach Kwan University, which was very systematic, well structured. I mean, Richie's just a mastermind in MMA, and he runs things so smoothly. When I saw that, I thought, oh, that's something that I could compare to, from being in South Africa. And after the class, we spoke for a little bit, and not just the way he was as a coach, but as a person, I just thought this is a character I could get on board with. He seemed very easygoing and relaxed. and then I decided to make the move. And what really kind of helped me click with them was when I later that day, actually, George said, "Hey, you should come over because we're going to go over Casey's fight with her and sort of, talk about what went well and what didn't and everything." I went over there that night, and he was there with our strength and conditioning coach, Woody. And they were both just very funny and immediately engaged in banter with me and sort of made me feel like one of the boys, which is kind of how I am as a person. And I just thought, yeah, I really like these guys. I can definitely get on board with them. And then I made the move to Tiger Muay Thai, which I thought I would never do. And I mean, that was just over, that was just before COVID. And I mean, obviously it's going well because now here I am with George in Abu Dhabi about to make my debut for UAE Warriors. So I'm really grateful that Casey pushed me to do that.
Yeah, rest was history after that, and there's a great backstory with all this too, as far as travel and everything, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I do want to loop back to this upcoming fight here a little bit. Just tell us a little bit about your opponent, what you kind of seen out of her. Obviously, you said, about 5 weeks of getting ready for this. What do you know about her, and what's it going to take to get a win on fight night?
So I think that one thing I've learned is never to underestimate any of my opponents, and I actually learned that fighting Casey O'Neill as my first one. I think that just looking over a couple of videos of her, I had underestimated her skill. And I mean, look at her now; she's 9-0. I think 5-0 in the UFC, or 4-0. So I just go in with a mindset that every opponent's going to be just as tough. And from what I can see, Mona, I think it is a bit of a brawler. She's a bit scrappy and wild, but I did notice that throughout the fights, I could see from her on YouTube, her boxing did progress through each fight and was a little bit more tight and better. But I think she's a forward aggressor, and my prediction on this fight is I think she's going to either come out and try to wrestle me quite early on, or she's going to try stand with me. And when she realizes that I think my striking is a little bit better put together than hers, she will resort to wrestling. But I think I'm going to come out of this with a head kick KO.
Prediction right there. I like to hear it, and I did want to ask you about this promotion a little bit here too, because UAE Warriors, it's a very well-known promotion, produces plenty of UFC talent through the years here. It's a big opportunity for you. Just how excited are you to be in this promotion? And I know you have big dreams on the horizon. You want to fight in the UFC one day, so I know this is definitely a big step into that direction. Just how excited are you for this opportunity?
I'm so excited. Actually, I did a interview that was never released in December. I have been given permission to use the video how I want, and I'm going to edit it out quite nicely. But in the interview, I had mentioned that my end of 2022 goal was to get a fight opportunity on UAE Warriors. So the fact that it came so early on in the year and so soon after my last fight, I'm really just excited, and I feel kind of like at the moment I'm manifesting everything that I want in my life, and so I'm just riding this wave and enjoying it while it happens.
And then the other thing too, it's great about this promotion too, right? It's in Abu Dhabi, and everybody. So first, for all the MMA fans out there, everybody really got to see what Abu Dhabi's like when the UFC kind of went over to Fight Island. It's how beautiful it is. What's it been like for you? And is your first time over there, kind of getting to see everything? I did see some photos that you posted there. It looks absolutely gorgeous out there. Are you going to get a chance to make a little vacation out of this and kind of get to explore and enjoy the beauty of that country?
So I have been to the UAE before. I spent some time in Dubai. I haven't seen much of Abu Dhabi itself. One thing I'm really grateful for is just the time of year that we're here, because it's not very hot. I mean, I live in Thailand, so I am used to thick, humid, and very hot climate. It's actually quite chilly here in the mornings and evenings with like a nice warmer temperature in the day. So I'm just really happy, because I heard, in summer here it gets ridiculous, and I've been told it's difficult to fight in that kind of climate. But I do fight on Friday and I leave on Sunday, so I have this Saturday to hopefully go around and enjoy some things. I'm not really sure if we're close to anything around. I do know there's Ferrari World down the road, which is a theme park. I don't know if I could convince George to go there with me, but I've been thinking about asking him. I would like to see a little bit of Abu Dhabi and enjoy some of it after I fought. So hopefully, but at the moment while I'm here, I'm just focusing on stretching in my hotel room, walking around a little bit, watching fights, just kind of like getting in my zone, and then after I fought, I'll go out and enjoy some of it.
So the last time or I'm sorry, the beginning of your fight career, right? 2019 is when you fought Casey in your first fight there, and then after that, right? We didn't see you again till 2022, and you just fought back in January. I know a lot of major things happened in that mix, right? There was that whole coronavirus pandemic thing that kind of had the whole world shut down that we are going to hopefully never talk about ever again in a few years here. But talk about that time period that you had off there in that moment and kind of what you were doing and growing as a fighter, because there was a lot of moving parts, right? You were in Australia, you moved over to Thailand. I know there's a great travel story here. So just kind of explain that gap that you had in between your fights there.
So I think I had about 2.5 year gap between my first MMA fight and my second. And I actually went back to Muay Thai for a little while, and then I went back to MMA, and then I went back to Muay Thai. It was a little bit crazy. I mean, COVID was a tough time in the sense of just the uncertainty of everything, not knowing what was going to happen. It kind of sucked, and there were some people who were still getting fights throughout COVID, which was making me think, oh, I can't seem to get one. I'm not really sure, but I was kind of blessed as well because it just gave me a lot of downtime to focus on progressing. Because when you are training in a fight camp, you kind of have the pressure of like, okay, I have X amount of time to get this much better. As where, well, when there's really like, nothing's going to happen for a year or so or however long, you can really just sort of focus on, okay, now I want to really work on my weaknesses and develop myself more as a mixed martial artist. For a long time, I was convinced I could just be a stand-up fighter with great takedown defense. But it's, 2022, and it's just not enough to be one thing in MMA anymore. You have to be like well-rounded and complete everywhere. So it gave me a lot of time I've predominantly just been focusing on my grappling. And then about a year ago, George and I started to work my striking differently, as when Muay Thai is a very standstill, trade, toe for toe, forwards and backwards kind of thing. George and I started to help my striking progress so that I'm moving more, making angles, more of like an MMA format for it. So it was a blessing. It was scary because you didn't know what was going to happen. But now that it's kind of passed and I'm on, about to have my third MMA fight and my second one in 2 months this year, I'm really glad for that downtime, that I got the opportunity to just focus on progression without the pressure of needing to be better by a specific time.
So you talked there about how you were able to use that time period to really grow and work on different things, but you did say, right, you were kind of going back and forth between Muay Thai and MMA. What was the decision like then to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to dedicate all my time fully to MMA as opposed to Muay Thai, which you're so used to doing and you trained for so long with that. So what was that decision like of picking MMA full-time over Muay Thai?
It wasn't hard because I knew that my heart wasn't in Muay Thai anymore. I mean, I knew that I wanted to fight MMA, and to be honest, I was kind of going back to Muay Thai just to keep ring rust away and just, to get some more fights in, get used to that feeling of getting back in the ring. And I knew that my heart wasn't in it because I would be at Muay Thai watching everyone go to Jiu-Jitsu, and I just so deeply wanted to go and train jiu-jitsu and not be at Muay Thai. I mean, I love Muay Thai, and I think that there's going to be a lot of things I have from Muay Thai that are going to benefit me in this fight particular. But it wasn't hard to make that decision because I already made it a few years ago. It was just with certain situations and certain circumstances, it felt like Muay Thai. It made sense to go back to Muay Thai a little bit just to fight and keep some ring rust off, and yeah.
And what was the backstory? Now, if you did say this before and I misheard it, I apologize here. But what was the story exactly? How you ended up in Thailand then? Because I know obviously you're from Australia. We know from the accent. We've mentioned that before. But how did you choose then to go to Thailand and go there full time and make that your new home?
So I lived in Thailand for 7 years prior to coming back for the time I've been here now. because my brother was a fighter and my family moved to Thailand, and I didn't do any fighting in the time that I was here. But when I went back to Australia at 21, I started Muay Thai, and I ended up in South Africa for about going back and forth between Australia and South Africa for about a year and 6 months, nearly 2 years, doing when I had decided to make the transition to MMA. And unfortunately, my visa got denied. My long-term visa that I applied for got denied to South Africa, which I think maybe in hindsight, because of COVID, it was probably better that I was stuck in Thailand, like as a young girl on my own. And when my visa had been denied to South Africa, actually one of my teammates from South Africa had just got a wrestling coach gig at a gym in Thailand. And he told me, he said, hey, I heard what happened with your visa. If you don't want to stay in Australia, I could probably help you out with a sponsorship over here. And you've lived here before, maybe you might feel better about that. And so I spoke with my dad, and we thought that made sense because, I mean, I have so many friends in Thailand. I speak the language quite well. I know Phuket like the back of my hand. So then I decided to go back there. And that was, I think it was in 2000, just after I fought Casey in 2019, and I've been back here ever since. Oh, well, back there ever since, yeah.
So let's do a little connecting the dots here in case anybody didn't get the reference here. So obviously we talked in the beginning about you and Casey being roommates. You just mentioned there about how you guys fought. We talked about that earlier. How exactly did you guys go from being, locked inside of a cage fighting each other to being roommates and turning into great friends and, such a great person to have in your life, and you give her a lot of credit to a lot of your growth in the sport?
I think that Casey's misunderstood, from everything that's been happening and all these, people being like she's the bad guy because she didn't shake hands with Roxy and things like that. I think she's so misunderstood because when I fought Casey, she was the same. She got in my face at the weigh-ins. She had this very, cold persona, and, I didn't think she was very nice either. But after we fought, she came straight into my change room. I was crying. She consulted me. She told me that she thought I had a future and that she was so grateful I took the fight. She messaged me 3 days later to make sure that I was okay. She was so nice about everything. She was just so supportive, which I haven't had really any opponents who message you after whooping your ass and being like, hey, are you okay? And when I was in Thailand, we actually bumped into each other in front of a 7-Eleven. And she's like, oh, you're here. And then we spoke a little bit. And then one day she just messaged me and she said, hey, I'm on the beach. Would you like to come and hang out? And, the rest of that love story is history. We just became really, really close, and she ended up moving in with me. We still talk really regularly, even though she's been away for a while. I'm so proud of her, and she has been a really positive influence in my life. And she did introduce me to George, and I did get to train with her for a while, and she's a great training partner because she was always just sharing her knowledge with me, which, she's a phenomenal fighter. So when I would do things, she's like, that's great, but you could make it a little bit better with this. And, I can't wait till I get the opportunity to train with her again. And obviously I miss her so much. I'm actually, in hindsight, a lot of people told me that's a crazy first fight. I don't know why anyone would take that as their first MMA fight. And truthfully, that is right. But in hindsight now, I just feel like it was a blessing in disguise. And if I didn't fight Casey, then I wouldn't have met up with her in Thailand, and she wouldn't have brought me to meet George, and I wouldn't be here with him in Abu Dhabi right now. So, the world has a really weird way of making things happen, but I'm just learning to trust the process.
Yeah, I always say life is a beautiful mystery, and one of the things that you said there too, just getting to know Casey a little bit last year of interviewing her a few times, she's a really nice person too. I know the crowd did kind of get it out of context that day. I know a lot of chaos going on. It was Roxy's retirement fight, and I know the crowd got a little emotional that day. But Casey really is a great person if you get to know her. And
I think people forget too. You're about to go in there and fight that person.
Exactly.
And it's not malicious because it's a sport. It's but you don't want to become best friends and then go fight each other. So it's always. I've pretty much befriended everybody that I've fought after I fought them. But I'm not going to try and be your best friend before we fight. So I think a lot of people who don't fight, especially, don't understand that you need to be in a specific mindset to get in there. And for Casey, she likes to be a bit aggressive and cold. And then afterwards, I mean, she raised Roxy's hand. She gave all the credit to her that she deserved. So I just think that, you know, it's easy for people to be like, oh, you didn't shake her hand. Oh, you didn't touch gloves. But you don't know what it's like to be in there. And you're about to physically get in a punch on with somebody. So a lot of people have to kind of be emotionless about it. So I think that she's getting a bad rap for, you know, from a lot of people who just have no idea who she really is.
As Aaron Rodgers always says, I don't know if you follow American football or not, he's the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. That's my team. But he always says, the internet is undefeated. And that's the case here, too. Another situation of it. People just want to say what they want to say online. I think they know everything. But anyway, another person I wanted to ask you about was Loma. Obviously, you've did a lot of training with her. She's now in the UFC. I know you talked about Casey in detail, but what about Loma there? Because she's obviously helped you out a lot to get to this point in your career, too.
Loma's been away for my last couple of camps because she had a knee injury after a fight, so she's just been taking some downtime with her family. I love Loma, and Loma and I can relate a lot and on a mental, I mean also Casey, but we relate a lot on a mental level. Like we're just sort of the same in training. I think the three of us, actually, all three of us are very similar. We're a little bit hard on ourselves. We beat ourselves up. George always says, he goes, I don't know what I'm going to do when I have the three of you here all at once. It's just so much to handle with your female emotions. But Loma's great, and I really, really miss her, and I think that she is going to be coming back soon. I just know that she's got some things to sort out, and she is enjoying this time with her family. But I'm really hoping that the next camp she and I have, that we're going to be training together again and stuff, because I have missed her for the past couple of camps.
And will they probably come out, you think, to the new gym? Obviously, I know that Bong Tao just opened. You guys are kind of still, you didn't have your grand opening yet. I know the last time to George about a month ago, he was saying there's still a little bit of work that needs to get done. But he was planning on having a lot of people come back to the gym kind of for a grand opening. Do you think Casey and Loma are definitely going to come out to something like that? Or are you going to have to go over to Vegas to get some work in with those guys?
No, because Loma lives in Bangtao. She has a house in Bangtao. She lives Bangtao full time. She's just visiting her family, so she'll definitely be back. I know that Casey does want to come back at one point. I think she would like to sort of swap between Vegas and Thailand, but she does. You know, she has a boyfriend over there now and like a whole life over there. So I don't know if she'll ever move back to Phuket on a permanent basis, but she knows that she's forever like a part of our team, and that she always has a home with us. I mean, she's the one who brought me there anyway. So, I've been bugging her to come back a little bit. I really miss her, and I would like, you know, hopefully for one of my next fight camps for her to be involved, or you know, to be involved in one of her fight camps. But no, I think that we'll be seeing their faces soon.
All right, so one last thing that I want to ask you, back to a fight-related question, kind of putting things into full circle here, right? We talked about, you know, this upcoming fight. We talked about working with George. We talked about Casey and Loma there. What I'm excited for when I watch you fight here this weekend, this is a time for a fighter in your career where you really see, like, a fighter grow leaps and bounds, because every time you go out there, it's, you know, a new experience. You're learning from previous ones. Do you feel that you're kind of in that spot that, like, each time you go out there that we tune in to watch you fight, that we are going to see that you're going to start growing leaps and bounds, and each performance is going to get better and more eye-opening to the fans?
I know, because my last fight was over so quickly, that if I just get 2 minutes to fight, people are going to see how much I've grown and changed since, you know, when I got in the cage with Casey 2.5 years ago. I feel I'm hard on myself. Sometimes it's really hard for me to notice my own progress, but I trust George and I trust Alex and I trust my coaches, and they have told me that my progress has been like night and day. Like, I'm just totally different in all areas as a fighter. And one thing I've really been trying to work on mostly is my mentality at the moment, is just trying to stay with it in fight camp, because in the past I have been the kind of person who gets a little bit emotional, or I just pick on myself. For my last fight, I was actually working with Kaylee Reese, who is not a sports psychologist, but she had one her whole career. And so she was doing some things with me that she did when she was a fighter that really, really helped me to develop a more positive mindset. And because I am coming off this win, I am feeling not cocky, but definitely confident in myself. And I know that I've grown a lot. And I know that sometimes I surprise myself in fights. So I definitely think that a lot of people are going to see how much I've progressed and grown. And you're going to see a totally different fighter from, who I was when I got in the cage 2.5 years ago.
And right, you said that your goal was to get to UAE Warriors. You're here already. What's the plan like for the rest of the year? Do you want to be active and get a bunch of fights in this year?
If I could and weight cut wasn't a thing, I would fight every month. I did it when I started Muay Thai. I fought 11 times in 10 months in my first year, and that was in Australia. That's a very, in Thailand, that's kind of normal. But in Australia, that's a really, really busy first year. And I'm always, I don't stay out of the gym for very long. So after this fight, of course, if I'm uninjured or anything, I was already kind of talking to a promotion who wanted me to fight early April, but I told them it wasn't an option because I'm fighting late March. But they said that as soon as I was ready to fight again, to reach out to them. So I'm definitely looking to stay busy. I mean, I have a goal to fight 2 to 4 times this year, because in MMA, that's obviously a lot more active than 1 or 2. And it's not the same as Muay Thai, where you might have 15 fights in a year. But that's my goal, is just to stay as active as I can, get as much experience as I can, get as many fights as possible, to build my record and everything. So when I'm done with this fight, like I might take a week off, enjoy a little bit of time to myself, but then I'm going to be straight back into it, and absolutely ready for the next one that calls. So I'm definitely hoping to have a busy year this year.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to seeing it, and we'll be following along. Best of luck to you this weekend. And now, last thing before you roll out, I'm going to give you the last word. If you have any management or sponsors you got to plug, also go ahead and plug your social media pages so people know where to follow you at. Anyone you got to give a shout out to, go ahead. Floor is yours.
First, I want to give a shout out to my biggest supporter, which is my father and my mother. My parents are just like, I'm not going to get emotional, but this life would absolutely be impossible without them. No one can ever imagine how much they've supported me through this. And I want to give a shout out to my sponsors, OG Fightwear, the Expat Hotel, and to K Happy. Thank you guys for also supporting me in all of this. And you can find me on Instagram at Jada Ketley. And just so all the, I have a lot of people on my Instagram who have actually been supporting me since the very start of my Muay Thai career. And I know who they are, and they're not forgotten. So just so many thank yous to all the people who support me, all my friends and teammates out at Bang Tao, especially to Top Noi. He's been so present in my past 2 camps, and he's pushed me to every physical and mental limit that I have. And also going in there, I just know that Mona is nowhere near Top Noi. So, when I look over at my opponent and I see that it's not him, I'm definitely feeling a lot better about everything. And just a big shout out to him, because he's been really present in this too.